From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
And there's SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5. Plus, a big day for the Tennessee Titans. They have to get down to the 53-man roster limit by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And one of the first moves they made today was to release the longest tenured player on the team, Brett Kern, who had punted for this team for 13 years since arriving in 2009. Let go today by GM John Robinson. That means Ryan Stonehouse, the undrafted rookie out of Colorado State, has officially won the punting job for the Titans heading into the season. Stonehouse has a monster leg. It is one of the biggest in the NFL right now as he enters the league. The question has been, can he do enough of the other things? Can he control the punts? Can he punt in the short field and coffin corner, keep it inside the 10-yard line? He answered some of those questions Saturday night. He got 7 punts. He averaged 49 yards per game, or 49 yards per punt over those 7 punts. But he also pinned 2 of them inside the 10, nearly got a third that bounced just across the line, and it was a bomb. The coverage team couldn't get down there in time, but it was a good punt on his part. Those were the types of things the Titans wanted to see. They wanted to see him hold. That seemed to work out pretty well, and so the Titans are bidding adieu to Brett Kern, who was scheduled to make $2.2 million this year. Kern has been a fantastic player for this team. He's played the 3rd most games in franchise history at 197. He's gone to 3 Pro Bowls. He owns essentially every significant punting record in the Titans franchise history, and has been around for a lot of good here in the last several years. But he did not have one of his best seasons last year. He struggled a bit with injury, and he's getting up there. He's 36 years old, and as I mentioned, was scheduled to make $2.2 million this year, even after taking a pay cut. And ultimately, the Titans look out there and see a guy like Stonehouse, who they can pay significantly less, and who knows, maybe he's the next Brett Kern. You get a guy who's in his young 20s with that type of a leg right now. Maybe Ryan Stonehouse is the Titans punter for the next decade or more. That seems to be the track record around here. Consider this. Since 1999, when the name officially changed to the Titans, there have only been 2 full-time punters that this team has employed. Craig Hentrick through 2008 and Brett Kern starting in 2009 until today. And now Ryan Stonehouse is number 3. That is a remarkable run at a position that can be finicky at times throughout the league. But as this happens tonight, we should certainly pay note to what Brett Kern has meant. As John Robinson said today after making the move, he is exactly what the Titans want their players to embody. Excellence on the field and terrific character off of it. He was a really, really good punter. He was a leader within the locker room, and he was a wonderful representative of the organization within the community. He was a great, great man, first and foremost, and he was a terrific player on the field. And I think a lot of Titans fans are going to remember that. And it's a sad day for a lot of them, because in a league that does not have a lot of longevity and doesn't have a lot of guys that stick around and play for one team for a long time, Brett Kern has been a staple of the Titans for more than a decade. To put his time in Tennessee a little bit in perspective, he's played for Jeff Fisher, Mike Munchak, Ken Wisenhunt, Mike Malarkey, and Mike Vrabel in that time. All the special teams coordinators that go down. Kern also has the distinction, or had the distinction, of being the only player on the Titans roster, and really the only person in the facility in a major team role that had been with the team when I arrived here. I'm in my 12th season covering the Titans. Brett Kern was here longer than that. Nobody else is even close. Brett Kern was an absolute fixture, and he was a class guy. Anybody who had dealings with him in the community would back that up. And on game day, he delivered more times than not. And so he will be missed for sure. But I want to start kind of the idea right here. He's a punter. I'm not sure how many people will jump onto this idea, at least initially. But for everything he did on and off the field, when his career is done, and I don't think he's done yet, I think there's a very good likelihood he'll end up in Buffalo here in the next couple of days. But certainly I think he's going to be on a roster this year in the NFL punting. He's only 4 punts away for 1,000 for his career. He would be just the 25th player in NFL history to punt 1,000 times in NFL games. That would be another milestone for him to reach. But I think ultimately, when all is said and done, the career is done and Brett comes back here to just be a supporter for the Titans, I think you look at Brett Kern and you think that that is a guy that could be in the Titans Ring of Honor. Along with the Munchaks and the Matthews and the Campbells and all of those guys over the grand history of this franchise. Not many players were around for 13 years. Not many went to 3 Pro Bowls. Not many hold essentially every statistical record at their position. And oh, by the way, he's a good guy too. I think Brett Kern deserves serious consideration to be one of the numbers put up there on the Ring of Honor at Nissan Stadium or at the new stadium when it opens up. And I think a lot of fans would be behind that because of what he's meant for this team on and off the field. Our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767, if you'd like to get into the conversation about this or anything else. Titans also dropped a couple other guys today in preparation for that 53-man roster limit deadline tomorrow afternoon at 3. Tyree Gillespie, who they had just acquired a few weeks ago, safety from the Raiders, he reportedly has been told he will be released. So Gillespie brought in to try to be that guy on the back end of the safety depth chart, give them a little bit more depth, some more flexibility in some of those defensive packages. It did not work out. And so Tyree Gillespie's done. And the Titans also waived a pair of offensive linemen. Willie Willett and Howerton up front on the offensive line. Both of those guys have been released. So there's more cuts coming, at least 23 more between now and 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I have a feeling most of them are going to come in the morning, fast and furious for the Titans, because they've got to get those names out there and they've got to inform those players. So I think we'll hear a lot more about that in the morning. Part of the reason they dropped 2 offensive linemen today, as those numbers start to shrink, is they also made a trade. They get some offensive line help from the Carolina Panthers. In the trade, the Titans receive offensive lineman Dennis Daly and a 7th-round pick in the 2024 draft. Carolina, in return, gets a 5th-round pick in that 24 draft. So really a swap of picks, but the Titans get Dennis Daly to help them up front. Daly, 6'6", 325 pounds. He's played 34 games in the NFL, including 21 starts. 13 of those came at left tackle. But he also played 7 at guard, 7 at left guard, 1 at right guard. So he is a guy that can play a lot of positions on the offensive line, potentially a swing guy for this team. That gives you a little bit extra depth there. He's even started in the league. So Dennis Daly now makes this team as one of the backups on the offensive line behind the 5 that is now set, with Nicholas Petit-Frere winning the right tackle job over Dylan Radins. And frankly, I think the addition of Daly makes the future of Radins even more murky. Because the biggest thing the Ravens had looking at the roster was his versatility, the ability to play tackle and guard. Well, now Daly comes in. If he can play all of those positions, is Dylan Radins on this team? I think he probably is, but there's a chance he's not, and it's larger right now than I thought it was a few hours before this trade was made. Ultimately, I think the Titans will keep 9 guys, but we shall see. Again, our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767, the number. We'd love to hear from you, but in the meantime, let's dive into our discussion last night from the Electric Power Company Sunday Sports Central about the Titans' final preseason game. Malik Willis gets a 3rd start. How did he look? What do we make of that quarterback battle, the backup position between Willis and Logan Woodside, or do they keep all 3? And what else are our takeaways as training camp is now wrapped up and the preseason is over? One of the things in here, obviously, a prediction that came true today. Ryan Stonehouse in, Brett Kern out as the punter. We also had the chance to talk with Brett Kern as well. But let's go back to last night, break down the end of the preseason, and look at these cuts that are looming and now happening for the Titans. Our spots are contractually guaranteed for the regular season, but that's not the case for about a third of the Titans roster.
Cuts are due on Tuesday, guys. So last night's game against the Cardinals was a last chance for a lot of those guys to impress the roster.
Yeah, most of the starters sitting out the preseason finale, so it was rookie QB Malik Willis, who once again in the spotlight as he made his 3rd consecutive preseason start. 3rd-round pick out of Liberty. Hits 1st-round pick Traylon Burks on a design play to get the party started. Then he comes back on 2nd down and connects with Robert Woods, who was playing in his first game since tearing his ACL last summer.
Nice 1-2 punch right out of the gate to the presumed number 1 and 2 receiving options the Titans have.
First time being back in a game situation, live situation. So it felt good to just be out there and back in rhythm and back in flow. I'm always ready for my opportunities. And when my opportunity comes, I just take advantage of it.
Bit of a slow start for Willis, who took a couple of sacks as the offense struggled to get going early on, but no one gets to him here, and that's a big issue for the defense. Takes off, nobody open, and look at him go, Jonathan Hutton.
This is what makes him special, the ability to make a play with his legs. The defense is turned in man coverage, and he makes them pay with a 50-yard run.
That sets up Julius Chestnut, who had a good camp here, 3-yard touchdown run. And then late in the half, how about these 2 throws? 3rd and 6, a dart to Mason Kinsey for a 1st down. And then he hits Burks for a 14-yard touchdown. And boy, did number 16 need that.
The Titans wanted Willis to hang in the pocket and get the ball out on time, and that's what he did on those 2 plays. He gets it out quickly against the blitz on 3rd down, and then he shows off his arm talent, hanging in there and dropping his arm slot to get the ball out to Burks for the touchdown.
Willis finished 15 of 23 for a $131 and a touchdown. Did have a tipped interception. Also ran for 79 yards as he looks to lock up the number 2 quarterback spot.
Meanwhile, Logan Woodside got just 1 drive with the Titans trailing 23-19 late. That followed the go-ahead Cardinals touchdown from former ball Jared Garantano to Greg Dortch. Woodside hits Cody Hollister for 9 yards. Then it's Des Fitzpatrick. This is going to go for 12 yards to get the Titans inside the 20. He was 5 for 9 on the drive. Had a chance here on 2nd down, but Mason Kinsey doesn't quite get deep enough on the route. And then Fitzpatrick drops what would be a touchdown here on 3rd down.
Not what you want to see, Steve. A bad and perhaps costly drop for Fitzpatrick, who once again is fighting for a roster spot.
Bad sight there. So he's getting no help. Woodside just going to take it himself. I'm going to go win this thing, fellas. 9-yard touchdown. Titans win it in the final minute, and perhaps that drive further complicates the backup QB discussion.
It means something for sure to me. And I think everybody that was in that huddle, I think that was, I kind of, before the drive started, I was just like, whatever happens, guys, let's just go out and have fun and try to go get a touchdown. That's what we did.
I just thank God I got to go out there and just have another opportunity to improve on things where
I might have missed last game, or I might have missed the game before that game.
I appreciate the quarterback play that we got from both guys last night. Malik did some things that were really encouraging that we had talked about, and then Logan came in and, had a great drive.
All right, Hutton, from now on, these games count. The preseason's over, and that means it's decision time for John Robinson and Mike Vrabel. Logan Woodside showed a lot of that final drive, which we just saw. But have you seen enough from Malik Willis to say he's the QB2 and that the Titans will be okay carrying just 2 quarterbacks?
Yes, I've seen enough because I see the tremendous upside from Malik Willis and how he's developed since he got here in May. They're still working on him stepping up and running and delivering the football in the pocket, right, instead of running. But it's the athleticism, his running ability, like on this 50-yard play, that separates him from Woodside altogether. And you see the tremendous upside with what they've done. I think he's taken a lot of steps forward. I don't care who he's playing against over the 3 preseason games. He's operating this offense, John, and we have seen tremendous growth game to game, practice to practice, to say he is the number 2 quarterback if Tannehill goes down.
And there's a reason why they moved up to draft him in the 3rd round. The other big storyline from last night was Robinson revealing that it's going to be Nicholas Petit-Frere, who started the last 2 preseason games. He's won the right tackle job over Dylan Radins, and Steve caught up with the rookie to get his reaction last night in the locker room.
It's great that he said that, but in the NFL, you compete every single day for your job. So it's not something that you just think you already have solidified. I'm going to compete every single day during practice. I'm going to compete this week, next week when we have the Giants, and 2 weeks when we have the Giants and things like that. It's not something that I take lightly, so I'm going to keep competing and keep doing my job.
So to be fair, Robinson actually said that Petit-Frere has kind of won the starting RT battle. Assuming that's true, is that the right decision?
It is. He's won it. He's the better option on the edge in one-on-one pass protection. And he and Dylan Radins were pretty much even on run blocking. They had significant issues with Radins on an island, though. They're still going to use tight end or back help for Petit-Frere, but his bigger frame, his longer reach gives him the advantage at right tackle. But, John, make no mistake about this. He is going to face the best from the opposing defense from his first snap. He sticks out on paper because the word rookie is next to his name, and because on the field, he's not experienced as everyone else. Defensive coordinators, they're going to view that as a weakness on their front, starting with Wink Martindale, who is now with the Giants by way of Baltimore.
Well, so much drama before the start of training camp. Ryan Tannehill's play, Traylon Burks' conditioning, Jeffrey Simmons' contract. Those all seem to be resolved, at least for now. So what are the storylines you're thinking about as the Titans get ready to open the regular season?
It starts with number 22. This team is going to go as Derrick Henry goes. And as of today, they're not as good at receiver as they were a year ago. The same can definitely be said about the offensive line. And while those groups can improve throughout the season, Henry's impact is going to have a huge say on the opening stretch of games. We haven't seen much of him, but we're about to. And the rookie class has a chance to make a big impact. I love what I have seen from Roger McCreary, Kyle Phillips, and Chigga Kwonkwo. All 3 players stood out in a big way over the last month.
No question about it. Jonathan Hutton, great tie, even greater knowledge. More with him coming up later in the show.
Guys, the final preseason game may have ushered in a changing of the guard at punter from Brett Kern to Ryan Stonehouse. The rookie Stonehouse continued a great preseason, averaging 49 yards over 7 punts and dropped 2 inside the 10, including a 64-yard bomb that bounced at the 1 and checked up to be downed.
I can only control what I can control, and I feel like I've, up until this point, I've shown a lot, and I think that, like I said, I think there's still more to improve on, but, I've put my best foot forward.
It would be an end of an era if the Titans let Kern go. He's the team's longest tenured player with 12 seasons and 197 games, 3rd most in franchise history, making 3 Pro Bowls along the way. I spoke to Kern about the uncertainty and the possibility that this is it.
I think the biggest thing for me was that I wanted to just kind of prove to myself that last year I wasn't 100%, didn't feel great, didn't have my normal season that I'd like to have. And so did a lot of stuff in the offseason to get my body right, just to come out here and prove to myself that, I can still punt at the highest level in this league. It's been fun. Stoney, he's a great kid. Been helping him out a little bit with some stuff here and there. And so the competition has made me better. I'm sure he'd probably say the same, and it's been fun.
Would you
kind of proud of him tonight? Because
I told him
with some of those
I told him
shots that you're so good at.
Yeah, and I feel like I've kind of helped him out with all that kind of stuff, and he can obviously drive the ball off the tee a mile. Just working on the short game. We've had some great conversations over camp and OTAs, and I've played in this game long enough. It'd be a disservice to him for me not to be able to help him out and give him some wisdom. I was proud of him tonight. He did a great job.
You feel like you proved what you wanted to in this camp, though?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, last year was a pretty bad year for me. So to come out and have a good game against Baltimore and Tampa, hit the balls that I was wanting to hit, put them in the spots I wanted to put, and so I was pretty happy with how it went.
If this is it for you here in Tennessee, how will you remember it? What will you think?
I'm just enjoying like Kevin Bryce, my son here in the locker room. My first game as a Titan, he was 8 weeks old. So for able to work training camp this year to help out was really, really cool. So I've had a ton of memories here. It's been a blessing. I'm thankful for it, and we'll just see what happens and what's next.
Jonathan, we mentioned last week that this could be a Brett Kern in the locker room on Saturday night. He had a feeling that this was coming. A lot of people did. It truly went from something that we kind of wondered last week if Stonehouse could do enough to overtake Kern to a place that by the time that game was over on Saturday night, he'd sort of shown that he was ready. And when you're inexpensive and young and could maybe be around and really good for a long time, that's very attractive in this league. And it was no surprise that the Titans ultimately made the move today to release Kern and move on with Ryan Stonehouse. To the phones we go. As I said, phone lines are open. 737-7767 is that number. And let's go to Mike. Mike, good evening and welcome to SportsLine.
Good evening. Got a comment and got a question.
Okay.
My comment is, in the 3 preseason games, I felt like we were just watching the Malik show. I mean, everybody talking about Malik, and at the same time, we got all these defensive linemen that are swarming all over him. We've got people dropping footballs left and right. We got people that are missing blocks, and just a lot of inside information was apparent on the screen regarding the first 3 preseason games, but they didn't talk about it. All they talked about was Malik. All right, here's my question. With the weaknesses that apparently exist, I'm talking about defending the quarterback, I'm talking about blocking for the runners, I'm talking about catching the football, I'm talking about blocking for the quarterback, and I mean, I just felt like as a fan that I hadn't got the whole message. All I got was Malik. What do you think? Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the call. And I certainly understand that. Malik Willis was the story of the preseason because, frankly, he's the new quarterback in town, and he got all the reps. I mean, there was no Ryan Tannehill out there. But for that reason, it's also, I think, extremely premature to take the takeaways that you have from the preseason. The defense essentially didn't play at any point in the preseason. Kevin Byard, Jeffrey Simmons, Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, those guys weren't out there. Dupree got a handful of snaps in game 2. But essentially the entire starting defense didn't play in the preseason. None of them played on Saturday night unless Caleb Farley becomes the starter. But I honestly think at the moment it's Roger McCreary on the outside opposite Christian Fulton. And so you've got a defense that was one of the best in the league last year, has a terrific pass rush, and has some depth that is going to take the field for the first time healthy on September 11th against the Giants. So I don't think you can take anything from what you've seen of the defense in the preseason. How they handled the run, their inability to get to a quarterback, whatever. It won't matter when the real defense takes the field on September 11th. That's when you start to judge. And from the offensive perspective, Nicholas Petit-Frere played a bunch. Well, until the other night anyway. At right tackle. Nate Davis has been out. Ben Jones hasn't played. Taylor Lewan didn't play in 2 or 3 games. Aaron Brewer didn't play in 2 or 3 games. So that offensive line, I think that is a concern. You got 2 new starters up there. You got to figure that out in the season now. But there's nothing you take from the 3 preseason games that adds to that alarm. It's a question. I don't know if it's a concern yet, and it's certainly not a concern because you gave up a few pressures or you had a couple tackle for losses in the preseason with guys who aren't going to be out there during the regular season up front on the offensive line. I think you've seen some plays from the wide receivers. You got to see more from them in the regular season. But you're going to see more from Robert Woods and Treylon Burks. We got them for a series the other night. You're going to get them a lot in the regular season. Nick Westbrook-Akina is going to be out there. There's going to be more to what the Titans do offensively. And, of course, the biggest thing of all, Derrick Henry is going to be on the field for the Titans in the regular season. He did nothing in the preseason. He barely even did team periods in practice. They are making sure that Derrick Henry, after he broke his foot last year, is ready to go. And the workload that he takes is going to start on September 11th, and it is going to go with no restrictions from that point forward because he is the guy and the engine that makes this team run. So is it okay to have some concerns or some questions about this team? Is it okay to be a little bit wary that some key pieces did not get much, if any, work in the preseason, given how this team came out and how flat they looked in week 1 last year against the Cardinals? I think all those things are fair. But I don't think you should be alarmed or concerned by the performances you saw in the preseason because a lot of those guys aren't going to be on the field for the Titans, including Malik Willis. But I do think Malik Willis is the backup quarterback, and he may be the quarterback of the future. And that's why so many people talked about number 7's performance and, frankly, his improvement from week 1 in Baltimore to what we saw the other night against Arizona. Got to take a break. Our phone lines are open, though, 737-7767. Call us up. Join in on the conversations. We talk some Titans here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.